controlling food not only controls people, but it's also prophetic. And we've talked about this quite a bit. We know, we understand that this is definitely a prophetic thing as far as how the food thing is going to go, and then getting us to start eating bugs and whatnot. And so when we look at it, of course, 1 Timothy 4:1-3 says, "Now the Spirit expressly says that in the latter times some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their own conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry," and then right here, "and commanding to abstain from foods which God created to be received with thanksgiving by those who believe and know the truth." And commanding to abstain from foods which God created to be received. Basically, just in layman's terms, fit for human consumption. This is the food that God laid out for us to eat. That does not include bugs. That does not include lab-grown meats. That does not include this stuff. But the commanding to abstain from foods, it's something that we definitely need to pay attention to, because how are they going to do it? We've talked about how they're going to start doing the carbon credit system, which will play an effect into that. Just the economy itself will probably play an effect with that. We know that they're trying to shut down the farms, cattle ranchers and stuff. We've seen all the mysterious cattle dying by the thousands all over, specifically the U.S., but I believe it's going on. We also see the bird flu outbreaks that's been happening, the various swine flu stuff that's killing off pigs. We know Ireland they're getting ready to do a bill that's you have to slaughter all this cattle, the majority of the cattle, and meat and stuff like that. That's all stuff that is provided by God for us to consume. And they want to take us off that. They want to command us to abstain from that. And we see the various reasons, but there's going to need to be more. They're going to need to do something much, much more extreme to basically get us off of that. And that's when we start taking a jaunt into the medical side of things. Now, I have to be very careful about what I specifically talk about on this, but I can show you a video from somebody who, well, just take a look and you'll understand where I'm coming from this.
So I'll give two examples. So one is that people eat too much meat, right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption on meat, then it would actually really help the planet. But people are not willing to give up meat. Yeah, some people will be willing to, but other people, they may be willing to, but they have a weakness of will. They say, "Wow, this steak is just too juicy. I can't do it." I'm one of those, by the way. So, but so here's the thought, right? So it turns out that we know a lot about. We have these intolerance to. For example, I have milk intolerance. And some people are intolerant to crayfish. So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you will become allergic to meat. I can sort of describe the mechanism. So that's something that we can do through human engineering. We can kind of possibly address really big world problems through human engineering.
You catching what I'm talking about, or what he's talking about here? We know through various things that if I even mention it on YouTube, they'll ban me for it, that they are in the process of pushing through human engineering. They're talking about, this is something that he wants to do. We'll talk about him and what he's involved with in a second, but I just want you to focus on, he's talking about bioengineering humans to become allergic to meat. That would literally command our bodies to abstain from something because we now have an allergic reaction to it. So we know that they're coming at it from the economy side. We know that they're coming at it from the supply side. Now we know they're coming at it from a medical side, a human engineering, and we know this is something that they're doing. again, reasons we can't talk about on YouTube, but we also see things like Musk has specifically talked about how they can program humans, and in his own words that we can become freaking butterflies. That's what he said. We know that's what Wef Boy Harari has been talking about, where we can start changing things, evolving humans. That's what he says. Start evolving humans. In his words, he claims that we're probably going to be the last regular generation of humans. Schwab's talked about it. All these people have talked about the human engineering side of things. And what better way to get us, just like Timothy said, to command us to abstain from the meat, from the food that God has created for us, than by literally engineering humans so they can't eat them. And he's talking about how they can do it. This isn't science fiction. This isn't something that can happen in 10 years from now. He's talking about how this can be done. They can do it. They already have something like the Lone Star Tick. They can take that, put it in their thing, and start doing it. When are they going to start doing it? That's the question. But this takes a whole new meaning. This takes on a whole new meaning of commanding to abstain. This one little section that Timothy talks about here, it contains so much. I'll throw it back up. I mean, it's a little off topic, but still, it contains so much. In the latter times, they will depart from the faith. We're seeing that, the great falling away. There's going to be no great revival before the rapture happens. It's going to be the great falling away. That's always a warning whenever you hear these charismatic churches talking about how we're going to hold a great revival. Obviously, they have not read Scripture. Run. Giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of devils. That's the churches that we're seeing now. The modern day church, the NAR, the charismatic churches, they are literally throwing doctrines of demons out of their pulpits, and people are just sucking it up because it's tickling to the ear, it gets them going, speaking lies and hypocrisy. That's these pastors up there that are sitting there, they're just preaching one thing and then they're living another. And we know the details, the job description in the Bible that gives us, not only for pastors but for deacons and for elders and whatnot, and they're speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their own conscience seared with a hot iron. That's hardening of the heart, hardening of the consciousness, forbidding to marry. We're starting to see things like the Respect for Marriage Act that Biden just signed today. It passed Senate, House, and Biden just signed it in today, where that's literally, they're taking the whole point of marriage. Marriage itself, the same-sex marriage and stuff isn't true marriage. Marriage is between man, woman, and God. It's always been that way. The government stepped in and said, we're going to be a part of that. Well, it's not. That's not true marriage. Forbidding to marry, I mean, that's starting to get in there. Commanding to abstain from foods which God received. I mean, this is so much in these 3 verses packed into exactly what we are seeing today in varying different areas, varying different degrees of what we're seeing today. And this food stuff is a part of it. Now,